Yes, I'm with the means we have finally NFL Week 1 power ranking. Sorry about that. So today we are going to go through and we are going to do the bottom 16 NFL teams. I know that it's a little late and I know that the Thursday night game has already been played, but I did these rankings before that game, so this is just for the whole week. If I'm sure after the game that I saw at this point, it's last night, things would be a lot different. But this is before that game, so let's go ahead and get into this. So this first category is called the maybe next year category. This is the category that really, if any of these teams made the playoffs, it'd be pretty shocking. Now, maybe, I mean, obviously 32 is going to be way more shocking than 25, but still, all of these guys would be pretty shocking if they made the playoffs. So, in my opinion, the worst team in the league are the Jaguars. I mean, really, at this point, it just looks like they're trying to tank, and it does make sense. I mean, they're stuck with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. I honestly think that he would make a pretty fitting backup, but I don't know how well of a starter he's doing. So they're probably trying to tank, probably trying to get that Clemson quarterback that everyone wants oh so much. I mean, they got rid of Leonard Fournette, and he was really their whole offense. So right now, their offense is basically nothing right now, and their defense, they're trying to basically get rid of that with the Yannick Ngakoue trade the other day that I didn't think went in their favor. It's just not looking very good for the Jaguars. In 31, we have the Bears. If you want to know what the things over here are, this means that you haven't, if you have the white little dash thing, that means that they haven't moved. The red 2 means that it dropped down 2, and anything green means that it went up that in any number. You should be, it's pretty simple, but I just had to explain it. The Bears, they're in a bad situation right now. They're also a team that I think would benefit from getting that first round pick, because if they do and they get the good Clemson quarterback, that would leave them with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. They could end up trying to use one of them, whichever one ends up playing worse this season, as a trade option next year that could get them a better running back. Maybe some good offensive weapons. So right now, I just don't think Mitchell Trubisky is really any good, and Nick Foles, he's okay. He hasn't really looked good whenever he started. I don't think that he'll be able to be. I don't think he'll be able to play up to the Bears' expectations at least. Their defense is what's holding them up. I mean, they do have Khalil Mack on that defense. He's questionable right now, but that should go away. So right now, Khalil Mack and the fact that they do have still David Montgomery despite the groin injury. The Bears still do have a okay team. Moving on, well, I mean, it's all pretty bad. And then we have the Jets, who they were in last time, but I think I was a bit hard on them. I moved them up to 30th this time. You have Sam Darnold, who I'm not a big believer in, but I understand that he has been. I mean, he was a rookie 2 years ago, and then the next year he's still a very young quarterback. I do think that he will get better throughout this season. I mean, you look, they do still have Le'Veon Bell. He's out of his prime, but he still is pretty good. They really need to add some more weapons. Brashad Perriman and Jamison Crowder just aren't going to cut it, especially with Sam Darnold at the helm. That defense, though, you do have Quinnen Williams on there. He's a very good player. They did get Bradley McDougald, who he wasn't terrible on the Seahawks, but he's no Jamal Adams. If they had Jamal Adams, that would be propelling them up. In my last power rankings, they had just gotten rid of Jamal Adams, and I was like, there's no way they're better than any other team. But now I kind of realize, and I flipped them with the Jaguars. Moving on. 29th, we have the Falcons. This is one that a lot of people would probably have a lot higher. I'm just not buying into this defense. I understand that they have Todd Gurley, Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley, even Hayden Hurst on this offense. Their offense could end up putting up some points. I just don't see it in Matt Ryan. He hasn't looked very good. He has had all these weapons at his disposal, and he still has not been able to get up past that .500. People always blame it on injuries or whatever. And their defense, A.J. Terrell maybe, but really, it's just not doing it for me. Their offense is holding them up here. But other than that, they really need to add some pieces on defense, and I don't think they really did that much this offseason. If they just add to their defense and they make their defense even as good as their offense, they would be bumped up exponentially a lot. Because their offense is by far the best on here. It might be the best in this whole area. It's just because their defense, I don't believe in it. And then in 28th, we have the Giants. The Giants, this is another one. They have Saquon Barkley. They are holding on to him. They just need to lock him down and keep him there. Also you've got Golden Tate, Evan Ingram. The main thing, again, this is right now. Like the same thing, like with Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones on these two teams. They will eventually probably move up through the power rankings, but at this point in week 1 right now, this is where I think that they are. Now, eventually, Daniel Jones, he will develop. I know he played a lot last year, but he still is fresh. He still is young. He will develop. He will eventually become a pretty good playmaker in this league, I'm pretty sure, especially with the weapons he does have at his disposal. And that defense is pretty good too. So all they need to do is they need to make sure that Daniel Jones keeps on progressing. They need to keep Saquon Barkley locked down for as long as possible. And then this offseason, they usually need to focus on adding to that defense, and then that will be how they get out of their rebuild and get into being a playoff contender again. All right, next up in 27th, we have the Lions. This is another one that a lot of people would have higher. I get it, Matthew Stafford. He is pretty good. They do have Chase Daniel behind him. You got Kerryon Johnson. He's a solid running back. They do have that. Kenny Golladay. I don't know. They're focusing on Kenny Golladay and Danny Amendola, and really, I just don't know if that's enough right now. To what the heck is the black thing on my screen? Okay. I'm so sorry about that. Anyways, their defense right now is very good, though. You do have Duron Harmon, Tracy Walker, and Desmond Trufant on that secondary. Their secondary is very, very good. This might be the best defense we've seen so far. Their defense is pretty good, and if they just add, maybe a better running back, even just an upgraded quarterback could boost this team. And I accidentally clicked. So now we have the Dolphins. Sorry about that, but the Dolphins are right above the Lions. And again, this is with Ryan Fitzpatrick as their quarterback. If they had Tua Tagovailoa on here, then they would be higher. And the reason that they dropped down is mainly because they announced that it'd be Fitzpatrick, because technically there was a chance that it would be Tagovailoa. Their running backs right now, they have Jordan Howard, backed up by Matt Breida. I don't like that much, but you do have Devontae Parker, Preston Williams. They're giving him as much weapons as possible. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, he is a very good quarterback. You saw what he did with the very small amount of weapons that he had last year. This year, the rest of their team got better, and I do think that he probably will win a couple games with him at the helm. And that defense, you have Christian Wilkins. He's very good. Shaq Lawson, even Landon Roberts on there. Their front seven is pretty good. Look at that secondary. You have Xavier Howard, Eric Rowe, Brian Jones leading the way. Their defense is a force to be reckoned with. They just got to get Tagovailoa in there, get him developed, and then in the next couple of years, add some more weapons to that offense, and then they will become a pretty good force. And the last team in the maybe next year column is another team that a lot of people would have higher. It's the Broncos. They actually moved up a bit this week, or this time. It hasn't been weekly. Again, this is right now. You have Drew Lock, who only played 5 games, and in those 5 games, they ran heavily. And wow, that is not a good sign for Drew Lock. It is a great sign for Phillip Lindsay in this running game. This running game is obviously very, very good. They do have Drew Lock, who I think will get better. I still consider him basically a rookie. He didn't get much experience last year. They ran the ball heavily when he was in there, and I think early in the season, they probably will lose a few because they have to be letting Drew Lock get in there and throw a lot and get into things. But also they need to be running a lot if they want to win some games. So it's really, do they want to win games or do they want to let Drew Lock get better? That is the thing. And also with Vernon Davis being out for this season, not Vernon Davis, Von Miller being out, that pushes down their defense a bit. And, so they're just at 25th. Moving on to the next category, we have playoff hopefuls. These aren't teams who are completely out. They still have a sliver of some hope that maybe, possibly, they could make the playoffs. Obviously 24, one place. If you thought that it would be crazy for the Dolphins or Broncos to make the playoffs, you're probably not going to instantly think that it's not so crazy for number 24 to make the playoffs. We've still got teams like the Panthers and Washington on here. They obviously are going to be probably in this one. But more as we get into the 20s, you will see that these are playoff hopefuls. These are teams that if just a few things go right and they win a couple of games that they're probably going to lose, then they will make the playoffs. So first off, we have Washington dropping down 2, mainly because all the movement going on around them. Washington, I think that offense is a bit underrated, and I think their defense is a bit overrated. So, I mean, one of the reasons they dropped down is because that they let go of Adrian Peterson. Starting this offseason, we thought it was going to be Geis and Peterson in here. And they drafted Antonio Gibson. And then they just went and then Darius Geis, he got arrested for domestic violence. And then they dropped him. And then they dropped Adrian Peterson like a couple weeks before this game. A couple days, sorry. I think that they should have dropped him earlier. I know that they probably wouldn't have dropped Adrian. If they planned on dropping Adrian Peterson, I think they should have done it earlier. If they got into training camp and saw that Antonio Gibson was good and they knew that they wanted to get some younger talent out there, I think they should have dropped him earlier. I don't like the decision made by Washington, but they do. I mean, Antonio Gibson, he's a rookie. He still looks good. I don't believe much in J.D. McKissick. Dwayne Haskins, this is another team that will probably start moving up as the season goes on. He looked pretty good in the last couple of games of last year. He probably will be a little faulty at the beginning here. But I think by week 5 or 6, they will probably be on a roll. They do have Steven Sims and Terry McLaurin giving him some weapons. So this offense, I think, is a bit underrated. Their D-line is probably the best in the league, though. Moving on to 23, we have the Bengals. They moved up since they announced that Joe Burrow was going to be their starting quarterback again. They didn't move up much, mainly because of the fact that I don't think anyone expected Ryan Finley to end up being their starting quarterback. But still, there was a tiny chance. Maybe he was going to play absolutely atrociously in training camp, and they were going to end up sticking in Finley for a couple of games. Also, you got to look. They're putting in Joe Burrow, and he's the first rookie. He's the only rookie quarterback starting in week 1, and they are giving him A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon to work with. This offense is very, very good. I think that they will probably start off with a bang on the offense. That defense also, I mean, you've got Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins on there. They have some talent. I think they will possibly, again, this is playoff hopefuls territory. If things go right, if Joe Burrow plays really, really well, and this offense takes off, this defense stabilizes itself, maybe they could end up sneaking into that 7th spot. They are a playoff hopeful. I don't know if Washington really has any hope to make the playoffs, but we'll see. And in 22nd, we have the Chargers. Again, this is with Tyrod Taylor at the helm. The reason they dropped down by 5, this is the most anyone moved. Someone got bumped up by 5, and the Chargers got bumped down by 5. Is because that there was a lot of talk about maybe Justin Herbert starting in week 1, and I do think that he's a very, very good quarterback, and I think they'd be better off in week 1 with him starting. I don't know. They might be better off in week 6 with him sitting, but it doesn't really matter. They are giving Tyrod Taylor, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and he has made the playoffs before. We've seen that happen. We know that he can probably take this team to a couple wins early. He'll probably be able to hold them. He'll probably have them at 2-4 whenever Herbert gets in there. And then you've got Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Denzel Perriman on that front 7. A great defense and a pretty okay offense. We are moving into, again, playoff hope territory. I don't think it'd be too crazy to say that the Chargers are going to make the playoffs at the end of this season. Next up, we have the Panthers, who haven't moved. The Panthers, they're a bit underrated in my opinion. They do have Christian McCaffrey, one of the best running backs in the league. Not to mention you have Teddy Bridgewater, who went 5-0 when he started last year for New Orleans. And I know he doesn't have all those weapons, but he does have CMC, who's better than Alvin Kamara in my opinion. So when he's not passing DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, who aren't very bad, he can hand it off to Christian McCaffrey, kind of like they did a lot last year, and know that he's getting a pretty good chance of winning. Then at 20th, we have the Raiders, who bumped up 3. This is actually the Panthers play the Raiders. That's gonna be a pretty good game to watch, in my opinion. Now, I'm probably not gonna watch it. I'm gonna be trying to watch in the Washington game because it's in my area. But they're probably in the same group there. You have Josh Jacobs, who looked great as a rookie last year. You have his picture right there on the screen up there for you. You have Henry Ruggs the third, Hunter Renfrow, even Darren Waller. They are giving Derek Carr some weapons. They're giving him. I mean, I do think this offense will be a force to be reckoned with. And then you look at the defense, and you've got Malik Collins, you've got Corey Littleton, and then in that secondary you have Jonathan Abrams, and Eric Harris. I mean, this is probably the first mad team that we've gotten to. You could go and you could say any of these 12 teams, you could say, oh, they're bad. I think, and you probably wouldn't be contested. You could say the Panthers are bad. Might be one or two people in there who say, no, they're not. Chargers, you could say they are bad. With the Raiders, if you went up to someone and say the Raiders are bad, they'd probably get mad. We're kind of in the meh area. And then in 19, we have the Steelers, another controversial one. I'm sorry. But the Steelers, I mean, again, this was right now. We don't know how Big Ben is going to play after having a season-ending terrible injury last year that kind of sent the Steelers into a spiral. I mean, they are giving him tons of weapons. Juju's, James Conner, Deontay Johnson even, Eric Ebron. And then that defense, you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick, Terrell Edmonds, Joe Hayden. That secondary might be the best that we've seen so far. So I do think this is another team that will move up. I just think that right now he's injured and he's getting older. We will see. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. He's got a pretty easy game in week 1. They're going up against the Giants. So, I mean, we'll see. All right, here we go. Number 18, the penultimate team of this video. The Eagles, it's just the injuries, man. The injuries are insane. Without the injuries, they'd probably be much higher. But right now, and also I'm not a very big believer in Carson Wentz. I know he's got Miles Sanders, who's a great running back, Deshaun Watson, Zach Ertz, even Dallas Goedert. He's got a great tight end pair there. Alshon Jeffrey even, who's probably injured at this point. They do have a very good offense when healthy. This is the thing with the Eagles. It's always when healthy. When healthy, their defense is great. They added Darius Slay. I mean, they have Jalen Mills. That secondary is a force to be reckoned with. Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Duke Riley. They do have a great defense. It's because of the injuries and the fact that I'm not much of a fan of Carson Wentz. If I bought into all the Carson Wentz hype and they were perfectly healthy, they'd probably be up in the top 15. And then the last team of this video, we have the Los Angeles Rams, another team that I think is pretty underrated. I know that I have them at 17th, but I still do think that they are underrated. They've got Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers there to replace Todd Gurley. I think their running game may have actually taken a step up. I'm kind of sad that they put Darrell Henderson in third. I was really interested to see if he would play, if he would recreate the numbers that he did a couple years back, but we'll just have to wait and see for that one. You have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, a pair of great wide receivers for Jared Goff. Obviously, you can't talk about the Rams defense without talking about Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. They have a pretty good chance of winning a lot of games this week, But that defense, they really are reliant on Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I know they just gave Jalen Ramsey a huge $100 million extension. So obviously he must be showing up in training camp. But still, that defense is a bit iffy right now. We don't know what it could be. So that's why I have him at 17th. We'll see what happens. So that ends. No! It's secret. NFL Week 1 Power Rankings. That ends it right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I'm pretty sure Power Rankings Part 2 is